Feel like we're going to take a little bit of a break here from the James Pierce Jr. news and talk a little bit more on the field football. Now, before we talk about what the Atlanta Falcons have the funniest chance to do this offseason, we are 115 subscribers away. If you are a diehard, loyal Atlanta Falcons fan, do me a favor and smash that subscribe button, because coming up on episodes like the one today, we're going to touch on free agency, but more importantly, adding some depth to that quarterback position. With that being said, let's jump right into the video. So we've thrown around a lot of names here on the channel, notably a lot of veteran free agents, older NFL quarterbacks that could back up Michael Penix Jr. But what if we decided, hey, we're not going to go with the veteran route. We're going to go someone slightly younger. Now, I get that Zach Wilson is a veteran, technically speaking, but he certainly is not an old veteran. Falcons fans, welcome into Falcons Today by Chat Sports. My name is Moose. Zach Wilson is a free agent, and he is a very interesting name this offseason. Now, I'm sure you're wondering, Moose, Zach Wilson sucks. Why on earth are we talking about him for a potential backup to Michael Penix Jr.? Well, I will remind you that there were plenty of other quarterbacks that we claimed sucked until they found the right situation. Baker Mayfield was written off as a bust. Same with Sam Darnold. And even Daniel Jones was looked at as an awful quarterback. And then, boom, redemption arc, redemption arc, redemption arc. Oh, and by the way, the guy in the middle here just won a Super Bowl last night. So before you get all up on your high horse about Zach Wilson and what he may or maybe not able to do at the quarterback position, I caution you to just remember that once upon a time, Sam Darnold was viewed as a bust, and now he's hoisting Lombardi trophies over guys like Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow. So, can the Falcons turn Zach Wilson into the next Sam Darnold story? Well, I think that's a little presumptuous considering we still have Michael Penix Jr., who is on the roster as QB1 currently. But as we have talked about multiple times, the coaching staff, the front office, and Michael Penix Jr. are not all married together. They wouldn't commit to Michael Penix Jr., so we have no idea what their quarterback plan is going to be. The only quarterback news that we know currently, that is actual fact, is that the Falcons are set to release Kirk Cousins. So let's figure out Zach Wilson here for a second. He was drafted number 2 overall in the 2021 NFL draft behind Trevor Lawrence. 12-21 as a starter in the NFL with a 73.2 passer rating, and currently is quarterback 2 behind Quinn Ewers on the Dolphins. Now, Quinn Ewers was recently drafted. Everybody knows what Zach Wilson is at this point in terms of his career right now, which is a certified backup. So that's why he's actually not labeled as the starter, is because they wanted to see what they would have in Quinn Ewers after the Dolphins benched Tua. But as we know, Zach Wilson has had a tumultuous career, to say the least. I mean, 38 career games played, 57% completion percentage, a little over 6,000 yards passing, 23 touchdowns, 25 INTs. But you got to remember, almost all of this was with the New York Jets. Sam Darnold was a bust with the Jets. So how much of Zach Wilson is really to blame for Zach Wilson, if that makes sense? How much of this blame do we actually place on Zach Wilson, and how much do we place on the Jets? I think the number might be a little more balanced than you would originally think. So let's go over the pros and cons of Zach Wilson, because we can't just look at the numbers to tell us the whole story. We have to diagnose the player. Call this quarterback, quarterback surgery. How about that? We'll call it like that, a little biopsy here of a quarterback. His arm talent is off the charts, dating back to BYU. There were no shortages of highlight plays dating back to his college years. There is no doubt in my mind that when it comes to the ability to make throws on the run and to, have that specific wow splash play, Zach Wilson can do it. We saw it even with the New York Jets. He's very mobile and a cannon for an arm. He could really launch that pill. And he's young, he's athletic, and he's cheap. Very, very cheap. Now, what are the cons? Obviously, the footwork is lackluster, and that pocket presence is bad. Decision-making was just as bad, and the locker room really turned on him quick there in New York after that whole project happened with him, and Aaron Rodgers comes in. He had to come back in for Aaron Rodgers. It was just a whole mess under Robert Saleh for the longest amount of time. But I think you need to remember something. He spent the last 2 seasons under not the Jets. Spent time with the Broncos as a backup behind Bo Nix with Sean Payton, and spent time behind Tua with Mike McDaniel. So he has learned now from 2 offensive-minded head coaches, 2 offensive coaches that really understand the offensive game and the quarterback position. Now, does that mean that he's fixed automatically? No. But can we reasonably assume that if he's studied and learned and progressed under these 2 coaches, that he's a better quarterback now than what he was when he was starting for the Jets? Yeah, I think that's a pretty decent and fair assumption. Sports Illustrated said this about his fit with the Falcons. Maybe Wilson is an unpopular name to some at first glance, but recent seasons have shown that second chances can serve both parties. Sam Darnold revived his career with the Vikings last season before landing with the Seahawks this year, and he just played in the Super Bowl and won the Super Bowl. Geno Smith, Daniel Jones, Mac Jones, and more have followed in the new team, new me mantra, and Wilson might be the next in line. The Falcons should be able to get him for a reasonable deal, and if it doesn't work out, then Penix should be around the corner to come back and start when he recovers from his knee injury. Wilson's expected AAV sits at a very reasonable $1.6 million, and he could provide some reps as a third quarterback with a chance for more. Well, I think we can all agree on this. He's better than Easton Stick, so he wouldn't even be QB3. He'd be QB2 to start off. So Zach Wilson is one of those names that I believe if the Falcons were to explore, you would really bring him in. Not only to take those first-team reps while Michael Penix Jr. is rehabbing that knee, but also to compete for the job. I don't think any Falcons fan here believes that Michael Penix Jr. should walk into the year understanding that it is his job alone, and no one's going to come in to compete for it. I think that's a foolish mentality to have, especially if you're trying to win football games. You want to bring in the best possible quarterback to compete for the starting job, and whoever wins the job, send them out there week 1. If it means that Zach Wilson comes in week 7 or week 8, if that means Michael Penix Jr. plays well from the start, I don't care. All I care about is that the winning quarterback, the best quarterback for the Dirty Birds, takes the field and wins this team football games. That's what matters. So I'll ask you this question. Would you sign Zach Wilson in free agency? Yes or no? I think yes. And the reason I say yes, obviously, is because I don't think Michael Penix Jr.'s job is as safe as everybody believes. So if you bring in Zach Wilson, you eliminate that old quarterback, that Joe Flacco style of quarterback or Russell Wilson style of quarterback, and you bring in somebody that has some high upside and can work in a Kevin Stefanski offensive-minded system. So let me know in the comment section down below. Now, before we continue on with what I call the Seattle Seahawks blueprint and why the Falcons are actually a little bit closer to that than you might think, I got to tell you about my friends over at Factor Meals. Listen, Factor is delicious, and if you want to eat better, but you have zero time and zero energy to make it happen, Factor doesn't just ask you to meal prep or follow recipes. It removes the entire problem. 2 minutes, real food, done. Choose from 100 rotating weekly meals with lean proteins, colorful vegetables, whole food ingredients, and healthy fats. The stuff that you would make if you had the time. Quality, functional ingredients, always fresh, never frozen, ready in 2 minutes, no prep, no cleanup, no mental load. Do me a favor, head over to factormeals.com/FalconsChat50off. Use code FalconsChat50off to get 50% off your first Factor box plus free breakfast for 1 year. Offer is only valid for new Factor customers with code and qualifying auto-renewing subscription purchase. Make healthier eating easy with Factor. So, what is the Seahawks blueprint? Obviously, the team that just wins the Super Bowl does enough of the good stuff in order to take a little bit from what they do well and apply it to your own team. I came up with 3 things in this Seattle Seahawks blueprint that the Falcons can match. The first thing you got to do, establish a physical run game. Well, you can kind of check that box off the list because we have the best running back in the league. Bijan Robinson. It doesn't get much more physical, agile, strong, elusive than Bijan. And for everybody wondering, well, Kenneth Walker was excellent. Yeah, he was great. It was great in that game. But he didn't even sniff Bijan's numbers this year. Not even close. Bijan crushed him in carries, in yards, in receptions, in receiving yards, in total yards. It wasn't even remotely close. So the Falcons have the advantage of the physical run game. And one more thing, kind of like a sidebar to this point. Last night, the quarterback position felt more of a complementary piece than the focal point. It was basically, Sam, don't make a mistake. Just keep the ship on course. Make the throws you need to make. Don't turn the ball over. Allow the run game to do its thing. Take the points when you can get them, and just nickel and dime your way down the field. Force the Patriots to punt the football and win this game, as boring as it might look. And it was effective, and it won. Step number 2 in the blueprint. Get creative with your blitz scheme. Well, for as many check marks as we have on that very first one, we have just as many check marks on that second one. Shout out to Jeff Ulbrich. Here's the reason why. Take a look at this chart. I realize that this is very small and hard to see, but I will do my best to kind of walk you through what this is. The very dominant and colorful bar is a no blitzer. So how many times you sent pressure with no actual blitzer. The Falcons ranked 3rd in the NFL, 4th in the NFL with no blitzers. That first kind of bar that's not quite as, prominent, but a little faded, that's 1 blitzer, and then the really light, almost white bar is 2+ blitzers. So the Falcons get very creative with their blitz. They sent multiple blitzers at multiple times. Ulbrich is always scheming up different types of blitzes, and it's only going to get better. Now, obviously, with JPJ potentially out of the conversation, that, could change a little bit depending on what the Falcons want to do at edge rusher. But you get my point. Ulbrich's not going anywhere. That's the good news. So get creative with your blitz schemes. Check on the first one, check on the second one. And then finally, one thing that the Falcons absolutely need to implement, a heavy emphasis on the special teams. Now, notably, the Falcons had one of the worst special teams I've ever seen. And this chart does no justice for us. Take a look. Just memorize this for a second. The Falcons were not just last, they were almost dead last across the board in special teams. Marquise Williams, goodbye. Craig Aukerman, hello. La, la, la. So I'm happy that we're going to have at least some competence in special teams. But if you start to put together the pieces of this team, you will notice something. We're not that far off. The Falcons must set these foundational principles. They will contend if they do what Seattle does, which, by the way, 2/3 of the way already there. Physical run game, we've got it. Creative blitz schemes, we've got it. If we can just become a top 20 special teams unit, this team is going to win the division. And if you win the division, anything can happen in the playoffs. Anything. That's all I got for you on this episode. A reminder that we just need 115 more subs to get to 51,000 here on the channel. Listen, I'm going to be back with more James Pierce Jr. updates for you in the coming days. Obviously, we will have a little bit more information readily available to us by Wednesday, so make sure that you are subscribed to keep up with the latest on James Pierce Jr. As always, Falcons fans, rise up and be cool.